Okay, so Ron DeSantis, well, the Florida legislature, the Florida Senate, has passed a pronouns bill because, obviously Florida has nothing better to do than to police pronouns. But this is the good part. It's just saying that school staff are not required to use a student's preferred pronoun. It doesn't say it's illegal to use the preferred pronouns. So, hopefully, most school staff, and especially the teachers, are not the assholes that Ron DeSantis and his ilk are. And maybe, that's the workaround. It's like, yeah, you're not required to do it, but at the same time, we're not going to make it illegal, so you don't want to be an asshole like us? Great. You can call your students whatever they prefer you to call them because that's the major loophole, which is good because, like I said, I hope most teachers are actually respectful and not the assholes that these Republicans are. All right. Now, let's see. There's another part of this bill. It says school staffers, so I assume that includes custodians and the lunch ladies and people like that. It's not just the teachers that this affects. But again, principal, vice principal. Now, when it comes to principal and vice principal, most principals and vice principals used to be teachers, so I can only hope that they, again, aren't the assholes that DeSantis and his Republican ilk are. Now, custodians may or may not. Same thing with the lunch staff. They may or may not agree with Ron DeSantis when it comes to these things. They don't, a lot of them do care about children, so it's a toss-up whether they're going to take what Ron DeSantis said and run with it and decide that they're not going to respect the students, or maybe they're going to continue respecting them because, it's different when you're looking at a child and telling them that they're wrong because I say you're wrong because reasons. So, it also bans classroom instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation up to the 8th grade, legally reinforcing a DeSantis administration move to prohibit such lessons in all grades. Additionally, the bill strengthens the system in which people can lodge challenges against school books. Okay. Another DeSantis initiative that has led to the removal of material he and his supporters argue are inappropriate for children. Okay. So much to unpack in that sentence, in that paragraph. Ugh. So, first it says it will ban classroom instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation up to the 8th grade. And then it says legally reinforcing the move to prohibit such lessons in all grades. But 8th grade is not all grades. Insert country bumpkin southerner joke here. So, which is it, 8th grade or all grades? But either way, what is wrong with you? Now, when they were concerned with doing this pre-puberty, it still was majorly fucked up, but at least they acknowledged that these feelings definitely bubble up once you hit puberty. Granted, Kids know if they're a boy or a girl from the very beginning, and they have an inkling as to who they're attracted to. The cute girl or the cute boy. They understand these things pretty much from the beginning. So, like I said, it's fucked up at any point, but most people, if not all, children have gone through puberty by 8th grade. I started shortly before I started 7th grade. So how is this helping anybody? The only thing that this is doing is making uncomfortable adults comfortable, because this isn't doing anything for the kids. When they go into health class, they need to learn that there is more than just one sexual orientation, or that trans people exist. I've said it in previous videos. I would have loved it if I was in a health class and asexuality was mentioned. I would have figured shit out so much sooner. I just thought I was a weirdo who wasn't interested in dating, and the idea of sex just, why? I just thought I was weird. I didn't know asexuality existed back then. So, this just ensures that children won't be confused about who they are. Because let's face it, children are great at othering other children for any stupid reason. So, children will feel, even if it's not outwardly being bullied, children will notice if they're different. So to show that, yes, you're different, but there's nothing wrong with that, is immense. It's huge for kids, especially if you have low self-esteem. This is a must. And you can't learn about it until you're in high school? I'm sorry, what? Why put children through that emotional pain of not understanding? Now, granted, hopefully most of these kids will have parents who actually give a shit and would pick up some of the slack, but they can only do so much. I just had a friend message me asking me for books on female puberty for her 10-year-old stepdaughter, because she either isn't willing or able or just doesn't feel comfortable having this discussion. She asked me to recommend books. Now, first off, at least she's willing to recommend books, but if she was living in a state like this, where would her child get this information? Because they're certainly not getting it from anywhere around them. I just don't see how this is supposed to be protecting children. This is not all this is protecting is scared adults who don't understand this stuff themselves, and so because they don't understand it, nobody should learn about it. Because it also helps make good allies, because all children will realize, oh, this isn't a bad thing. So, it also bans classroom instruction. Oh, I read that part. So, it also is making it easier to lodge complaints against books that parents feel are inappropriate for children. And I put that in quotes because, yeah, there might be some books that slip through the cracks and are not age appropriate when people thought that they were. Mistakes get made. However, this is just code for parents do not feel comfortable with their kids learning about certain subjects. Again, back to this friend who asked me about books on puberty. She is obviously at least comfortable enough with her child learning about this stuff, even if she's not comfortable or knowledgeable enough to help her through this. So basically, these are parents who are uncomfortable with the fact that their children are reading certain books. Now, not only are they uncomfortable with their child reading certain books, because of that, they think no child should read these books because obviously everyone should be like them, and if I want to be comfortable, I should move this, push this stuff away instead of confronting why I'm uncomfortable with my child learning about these things. And it's perfectly valid for parents to not want to accept that their children are growing up and that they're experiencing thoughts and feelings and that show that they're becoming adults. I'm sure that that's uncomfortable for parents to deal with. But that doesn't change the fact that they are dealing with this. And either they're going to do something really stupid and probably get pregnant as a teenager, or they learn about their body. They're not going to freak out the first time they have their period. I mean, I had my best friend in junior high. Well, we were best friends since elementary school. She asked her parents about getting her period. And they're like, "Wait, didn't you say Susan got her period already? Why don't you ask her about it?" Her mother's a teacher. So I don't expect all teachers to be comfortable with this sort of thing, but it is sad. But at least she had me to turn to. But the fact is, just because I just went through it doesn't mean I know everything. What if my experience was different than hers? I mean, then she would be confused as to why things aren't happening the way Susan said that they were happening. Because I had just gotten my period myself. So I only know my experience. And as luck would have it, it jibed with hers. However, what would have happened if it didn't? These kids need to be able to turn to adults, turn to books, turn to teachers. Her mother wasn't a health education teacher or sex ed teacher, so you could give her a pass on that one. But, or maybe she just figured that she would be more comfortable talking to her friend than her parent. There's all sorts of reasons why she could have done that. However, at least in both cases that I mentioned, these children had a recourse. They had somewhere to turn. Ron DeSantis is making it so children have nowhere to turn. Now again, with the pronouns, at least they said that it isn't required, not that it's illegal to do it. So, at least something. But to say that you can't read certain books because you think it's pornographic, this is the same state that fired a principal because they understood the value of David, the statue of David. But many parents thought it was pornographic because he was naked. I mean, that is not what makes it pornographic. I mean, seriously. By that reasoning, anatomy textbooks are pornographic. Because guess what? In order to understand anatomy and physiology, guess what you have to see? It's just mind-boggling what prudes these people are. The Puritans would look at them with awe. And they're the ones who did the Salem witch trials. So, yeah, this is just extremely dangerous. And you feel bad for the children. And like I said, hopefully most of these parents are accepting. But if they're not, the kids are screwed. So you're going to have an uptick on suicides on your hands because some of these kids are going to have nowhere to turn. And it's going to be the fault of the powers that be because they've decided that their comfort is more important than children's lives. Because unless the child looks, thinks, and acts just like they want them to, they I guess deserve to off themselves or something. I don't know. So the article goes on. Think about what we're doing honestly. Think about how this will affect families that don't look like yours, said Senator Tracy Davis, a Democrat. They're still families, they're still Florida families, but we're treating them like they're outsiders and we're telling them we don't want them here. Exactly. And I wonder how many of these people, those that are able to, that is, are just going to say screw it and leave the state because of fear that harm will happen to their children. Or maybe the adults are members of the LGBT plus community. They might not feel comfortable raising children in Florida for whatever reason. And whether it's because their children are also members and they're being othered at school, or, well, they're certainly being othered by the legislature, or they just are afraid that their children will be taken from them because, you know, they're if they're members of the LGBT plus community, obviously they shouldn't be having children because that makes sense. Who knows? But a lot of these families are probably going to leave. And if you add to that Ron DeSantis' war on Disney, I'm sure a lot of people are going to leave the state. I wonder how many, I'm just wondering when Disney says, you know what, we've got Disneyland, we're just going to go there because this is just stupid. All right, Republicans said the bill is intended to shield children from sexualized conduct and reinforce that teachers should conform to existing state curriculums. Okay. What the hell do you think happens in sex ed? It's called sex ed for a reason. It's health class. It teaches you how to take care of your body. And sexualized content, the only people sexualizing it is you. Teachers understand that once you hit puberty, which this law would go through 8th grade, at the very least, they start having, well, those who aren't asexual anyway, start having thoughts. You know, they want to get together with the cute boy or cute girl. They want to maybe at some point have sex. You know, once you're in high school. Those things are going to happen. Parents, teachers, parents, legislatures are not going to stop horny teenagers from being horny. That is just not how any of this works. Preventing them from getting this information is just going to make it harder for them to know how to deal with those feelings. How to deal with, okay, once you're ready to have sex, this is how this is what you should be worried about, this is how to have it safely, etc., etc., etc. It how is this shielding children? I mean, it's shielding them, yeah, but it's shielding them from a reality that most are going to experience. Most are going to start questioning who they're attracted to. Some are going to want to start dating. Some are going to question, like I did, why am I not having these feelings? These are all valid questions, and you're basically saying because you're scared shitless of your own body, of children who have experiences different than yours, that you've decided that no child should learn about this. Like I've said before, even if you're not part of this other category, you're not part of the LGBT plus community, but this could help you become an ally, because people will have the information of, this is why trans people exist, this is what a trans person is, and there's nothing wrong with that. They just need the proper treatment so they can live their best lives. This is why gay people exist, or at least that gay people exist. Lesbians exist, bisexuals exist, asexuals exist. That not everyone is going to like the same things you are. And that's perfectly okay. And if you're ready for sex, this is how to put on a condom. Yes, I know that that's an old cliche, but this is how you put on a condom. These are birth control pills. This is that. Because, let's face it, birth control pills also help with regulating the period. They're not just to prevent pregnancy. So, but and let's face it, there is, I think it's called CPV. There's a vaccine for that. How are kids supposed to know that such a thing exists? Because it's not like just a sexually transmitted disease. You can get it in other ways. So they need to know that. And I remember going over sexually transmitted diseases, all of them, which the bigots seem to think is just AIDS. No, there's other sexually transmitted diseases, and this is just for the bigoted adults' comfort, not for the children. You're shielding them, yes, but you're not shielding them from sexualized content. Because the only person who's sexualizing it is you. You are shielding them from what could potentially be life-saving information. Whether it be because of someone being sexually active, or because they're a part of the LGBT plus community and don't understand why they feel different than others. That's all you're doing. You're shielding them for information that could save their lives, or could just make them understand themselves better. And what's wrong with understanding yourself? The earlier you learn to understand why you're different than someone else, and why certain things are happening, is a good thing. Because then you won't freak out and think there's something wrong with you. I mean, I don't see how this is a bad thing. Okay, let's see, did I miss anything? So it says, you see society coming at our children in a culture war that has an agenda to make them confused, Republican Senator Aaron Grawl said. We are depriving children of the ability to figure out who they are when we push an agenda, a sexualized agenda, down onto children. Or, counterpoint, the only people who are confused are you, because you don't understand these terms and these situations that children find themselves in. And seriously, sex ed is an agenda? I mean, yeah, you're depriving children, but you're depriving children not of the ability to figure out who they are. That is actually what you're trying to prevent them from doing. Tell me, how is telling them that trans people exist, gay people exist, lesbians, bisexuals, asexuals, trans, you name it, how pansexuals, tell me, how is that preventing them from figuring out who they are? If they are in one of those categories, that helps them figure out who they are. It's just maddening. All right. Separately, Republicans in the House gave final passage to a DeSantis priority bill that bans colleges from using state or federal funding for diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Such initiatives, sometimes referred to as DEI, have come under increasing criticism from Republicans who argue that the programs are racially divisive. No, they're not. There's nothing wrong with having diversity. It's just, what makes it divisive is that you think it's divisive. You're basically saying that, oh, I don't mind learning about black people as long as I don't see them. Same thing that you do with the LGBT plus community. What is wrong with you? Tell me you're racist without telling me you're racist. Republican lawmakers in at least a dozen states have proposed more than 30 bills this year targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in higher education. An Associated Press analysis found using the bill tracking software Plural. They want belief in the same thing. They say they want inclusion, but they don't unless you believe what they believe, said Representative Randy Fine, a Republican. That literally made no sense. These programs are being used all over the country. Imagine how great our universities will be when we are the only ones who are not. Huh? Okay, so what I think this douche nugget is trying to say is that they want you to not be racist, and that's hurting the actual people who are racist, and we're the victims. I'm sorry, you can be just as racist as you want as long as you don't bother the neighborhood people of color and trying to keep them from living their lives. Otherwise, if you don't like black people, if you don't like brown people, fine. Nobody cares. What we care about is when you prevent those people from, living life, doing what you would want to be done, getting jobs and at nice companies simply because of the color of their skin. I don't know what to tell you, dude. I mean, it's just... The House also approved a proposal to ban people from entering bathrooms that do not correspond to their sex, a bill aimed at transgender bathroom use. And how the holy hell are you going to enforce that? DeSantis is expected to formally announce his presidential candidacy after the end of the legislative session. He has spent significant... Who cares? Okay, in the State House, Democrats who have no power to stop the Republican legislation have increasingly begun to vent over the rightward shift in policy emanating from the GOP. The message that resonates from this chamber over the last few years is one of hate and exclusion and punishment, said Democratic Senator Jason Pizzo, There is very little grace and very little compassion. You're being way too kind with the very little. I would say there's none. So, like I said, people don't know what adults don't understand certain things, like being trans, and let's face it, I don't understand it either. But unlike these people, I accept that trans people exist because I listen to trans people and I accept that they have these issues, that they feel like that even though they were born female, that they're actually a man, or that they were born male but actually a woman. I'm not going to doubt them because I'm not them. Do I know what it's like what it means to be a woman? No, because I do not experience any pain at being who I am, so I honestly don't know what makes me a woman, except for the fact that I was born a biological female. And though the fact that those two happen to coincide with me, I never even gave it a thought because why should I? There's nothing to think about because there's nothing about me that makes me question. So I accept it when trans people say that this is what's going on because that's their own personal experience, and it's not up to me to tell them that they're wrong because I don't feel that way. Not my experience, dude. So, but yeah, I would really love to know how they're going to enforce the people need to go to the bathroom of their birth sex. I swear these people, just like the gender critical video that I did not that long ago, I swear these people think that there isn't a trans person who can pass, and because that doesn't exist, they think that it'll be so totally obvious when you see a man in a dress walking into the women's room, even though that's not what trans means. Yes, there are some trans people who pass better than others, but here's an important problem. I have met cis women who look masculine, but they're still cis women. So looking at them isn't going to tell you, aha, that person's trans. You can't do that because, like I said, they're masculine looking women, they're feminine looking men, and it has nothing to do with being trans. They just happen to look that way. So what are you going to do? How are you going to enforce that law? You can't. Unless you go the way of the ancient Greek Olympics, and because women tried to enter into the games and everyone was naked. Short of that, which, I mean, that's totally ew. I don't see how they can do that. I honestly don't, because you can't do a blood test to check the chromosomes because that'll be hella expensive, for one thing. And still, privacy issues. It's none of your goddamn business that whether they give blood. You can't make them do that. It's just so frustrating and so disappointing that there are adults who are so scared about certain issues that they've decided that instead of accepting those issues and learning to deal with it, like having a workplace that has LGBT plus, has people of color, has women. Because, let's face it, most of these people are men. There are women who do that too, but most of them are men. Or, I guess, going into a workplace and seeing men. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Go live in a cave if people scare you that much. I just don't see how hurting others and forcing everyone to freak out, to legislatively freak out the same way you freak out, and to just make it illegal to even think about these things. I don't know how this is saying having anybody but you to keep your head in the sand so you don't have to think about the fact that these things exist. So that is the latest on Florida. And by extension, Ron DeSantis, because we know that he's doing all this because, well, first off, he's an asshole. And second, because he thinks that this will help him for his presidential campaign. But except for the COVID thing, where he was pro-vaccine until he wasn't, I don't think any of this is actually him just pandering to a base. I think he actually believes this crap. Either that or he's just way too stubborn for his own good. One of the two. Or both. I guess it could be both. Anyway, I rambled on with this enough. So with that, I will see you in the next video.